Welcome to Stage Left Planet, and I'm your host, Warita Winbush. Today, we will be discussing the wonderful life and tragic death of a legendary dancer, Trouble T-Roy of Heavy D and the Boyz. Much love and credit to Celebrity Underrated on YouTube, whose videos on Trouble T-Roy and Heavy D motivated me to do this video about Trouble T-Roy. Trouble T-Roy is a beloved hip-hop icon whose death still breaks the hearts of many to this day. He was a famous member of rap group Heavy D and the Boyz, as stated in the intro of this video. He, along with G-Wiz, were exciting, extraordinary dancers that put on explosive performances. Eddie F. was a DJ while Heavy D rapped and also danced. And they were all sharp dressers. Honestly, I think that men need to start dressing like them again. People who knew Trouble T-Roy loved him and said that he was a great friend and a good person. He was a unifying force who facilitated lasting friendships between others and managed conflict. And honestly, Heavy D and the Boyz were never the same after his passing. Now, Trouble T-Roy died due to a tragic fall after a performance during the Sizzlin Summer Tour 90 at the Market Square Arena in Indianapolis. Hot groups such as Digital Underground, Public Enemy, Kid and Play, Poor Righteous Teachers, and the Afros were also on the lineup at that time. I mean, and they were the hot groups of the day, and they were just a few hot groups of the day as well. Now, after a performance during the tour on July 14, 1990, the artists were hanging out on the raised exit ramp outside the Market Square Arena. It was said that they were playing around when someone pushed a large trash barrel down the ramp. And with the elevation of the ramp not seeming to be too high, and not realizing that they were stories instead of only feet from the ground floor, Trouble T-Roy tried to jump onto a retaining wall to get out of the way. However, he lost his balance and fell to his death. Trouble T-Roy Dixon died of severe head injuries on July 15, 1990. In my opinion, the circumstances surrounding Trouble T-Roy's death are just too weird. I mean, why would someone push a large cart like that at someone else? Common sense should have prevailed, you know. I mean, indeed, they were on a ramp, which means that the downward trajectory of the barrel would increase the velocity of the barrel on the ramp. I mean, even a little child who has played with cars, a ball, or blocks would realize, hey, if I'm here and if I'm here on this ramp or this tilted, on this platform on a tilted angle, then if I roll something down it, it's going to roll faster. Eventually, you catch on to that when you're a little kid playing with your toys. Now, here are the things that caused me, to look at his death with concern, or the circumstances. Here are the things that caused me to look at the circumstances of his death with concern. One, no one was ever named nor charged and convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Also, in recent times in particular, people keep deflecting to Tupac's reaction to the accident and the death of Trouble T-Roy, particularly since Tupac has become a legend and a cultural icon. who transcends the hip-hop genre itself. Now, some rappers that were on the tour or affiliated with folks on that tour went from being just regular rappers, even some of the dancers, went from being just regular rappers and performers to hip-hop icons and music moguls, And now, this particular point, I'm not going to discuss in this video because it's highly detailed, and so I wrote about it in my companion article to this video, which is Who Accidentally Killed Trouble T-Roy. Right? It's on my Stage Left Planet blog. So I looked at Heavy D and the Boyz' Big Time and Living Large album covers. And those album covers have a lot of occultic symbolism, and both albums prominently feature Trouble T-Roy more than the other members of Heavy D and the Boyz. In fact, there was a picture, there was this group picture that I saw of Heavy D and the Boyz and a bunch of other rap groups and rappers and performers, right? And I don't remember if it was, that picture was in relation to that tour, but I noticed when I happened, I saw that picture on someone else's video, and I happened to glance. I was multitasking, okay? I happened to glance out of the corner of my eye at the video, and the first person's face that jumped out at me, and it's because I've been doing the research on him for the article that I wrote in this video. It was Trouble T-Roy. It's like he was almost directly in the center of that picture, and it's like the picture had been taken to a point where that center of the picture it seemed almost like it had been highlighted, while the people around Heavy D and the Boyz were, kind of in a light shadow. But so I noticed that. I noticed those things, but here's the thing about it. This is the twist. Usually, with album covers, the music artists aren't aware of the meaning of the cover art, but those who handle the art direction are. And again, I talk about this at length in my article on my Stage Left Planet blog. And the article is titled, Who Accidentally Killed Trouble T-Roy? And I'm asking the question because it's weird that people they talk about Trouble T-Roy yet never say who killed him, even though the people who are being interviewed who start discussing and talking about Trouble T-Roy, they were there at the time of the accident and saw the accident occur. So they know who killed Trouble T-Roy by accident, and yet none of them have ever come forward and said, hey, this person did it, and that person never came forward either. And I'm like, y'all could give the man the respect to say who did it, and give Heavy D and the Boyz fans closure, You could do that. And so, here goes. Again, no one was ever named or charged and convicted of involuntary manslaughter. I mean, and again, the person who pushed the large trash barrel was never named publican nor held accountable. The person has never come forward. The family never filed charges. The police said that Trouble T-Roy's death was an accident. The police ruled his death an accident. I asked, why an accident? I mean, due to his death being a result of intentionally reckless behavior, yet without the intent to murder or harm, the crime committed was actually involuntary manslaughter. I mean, those who were again, and I'm saying it again, those who were at the scene know who did it. And I find it interesting. One interesting fact is, at that time, the Los Angeles Times published that the person's identity wouldn't be revealed out of respect for the tragic event. The person, in my opinion, should have come forward and have discussed the real dangers. They should have come forward and discussed the real dangers of horseplay and being careless. I mean, it would have been a great and important message to share with the youth, as well as I said earlier, give Heavy D and the Boyz fans closure. Especially considering Trouble T-Roy was a beloved member of that group by people who knew him as well as his fans. Now, in an interview with XXL Magazine, in the article, Rest in Peace, Trouble T-Roy, family and friends still reminisce 20 years later. F stated, I think the group really lost something when Troy passed. I was right there when Troy fell. I was one of the first people to actually see him fall. There was a lot of misconceptions, because a lot of times people say, oh yeah, he fell off the stage. Now, I'll be honest with you. At the time Trouble T-Roy passed, that is what I heard. This is what magazines and radio shows were saying as well, that he was on stage and he was dancing and he fell off the stage. That is what people said. That is what was said in the media for years, that he was dancing and he fell off the stage. You know, so I'm in agreement with Eddie F, and I'm glad he cleared that up. And then Eddie F went on to say, you know, and just to set the record straight, it wasn't that he fell off the stage. You know how Coliseums or convention centers have, like, the exit ramps that they should go around the arena and eventually go down to the ground level. Well, there was just one of those ramps, and it was elevated in the arena. The thing was, though, when you come out of the arena, you really had no perspective that you were 2 or 3 stories up in the air. It just felt like you were coming out of a regular stage, like at a school or something, and the ground's right there, you know, and everybody ran down the ramp. And I saw that he had like a big gash in the side of his head where his head had hit the ground. And at that point, we were just like slow motion. You know, everybody was jumping around and just yelling, and everything just turned blurry. Yeah, it just so happened, that there was an ambulance right there underneath the ramp. From where he fell, the ambulance was like no less than 40 feet away. I mean, so it was like he almost fell right in front of the ambulance. They turned on the lights, and I didn't see them like actually pick him up and put him in the ambulance or whatever, because at that point, it was like everybody was hysterical. Everything was in slow motion. And then from there, it just turned into like a whole mayhem of everybody rushed to the hospital. That was Eddie F's account. Now, I also observed that many people deflect to Tupac when they are in interviews discussing Trouble T-Roy's death. I mean, and no one was mentioning Tupac in association with Trouble T-Roy before Tupac became a legend. And I know this for a fact because, number one, during that time, Tupac was just starting his career. And, you know, even when he transitioned from Digital Underground, his brief stint with Digital Underground, to a solo career, people were had mixed reviews on his first album with that song I Get Around. I didn't care for it because it was like a whole change in his persona, you know, because he was more like a conscious rapper, as you can hear when you listen to his part, which was the best part on Digital Underground's song, Same Song, you know. And when you observe him, and it can be found on YouTube, when you observe him and listen to him during an interview he did when he was in high school, Tupac wasn't about no thug life and all that kind of stuff at all. He seemed more like like, you know, that TV show Fame. He seemed more like he would have been like, if that was a real school, you know, a real class and stuff, Tupac seemed more like he would have been in Debbie Allen class, like from that TV show Fame or something, you know. That was his thing. You know, then all of a sudden, you know, he become this thug life rapper and stuff, and I mean, look like people who knew him should have been looking at him like, who are you? You know? Now, some people attributed to him having been in the movie Juice and saying he got too deep in the role of Bishop and couldn't come out. Like, he was practicing method acting as he, you know, was in that role of Bishop in the movie Juice. But people get demon-possessed. They call them, you know, they become demon-possessed when they doing method acting, you know. So, maybe the Tupac, the gangster, or the thug life dude, I don't know. Maybe that was some demonic alter ego that took over him during the movie Juice. And it was putting all that thug life stuff out there. I don't know. That was, you know, anyway, that's ramblings from me. But ultimately, Tupac, you know, stood for social justice for black people and for everybody, you know. So that was a good thing about him, though. I'm going to continue, okay. I'll continue, because sometimes I go off on tangents. As you can see in my other videos, on my YouTube channel, Stage of the Planet. Yes. But before Tupac became a legend, people didn't speak of Tupac in association with Trouble T-Roy. You know, and Tupac himself didn't mention Trouble T-Roy in interviews, neither in his songs. You know, Tupac didn't speak about Trouble T-Roy, but talking about his own career as a background dancer. And he had been a background dancer and a roadie for Digital Underground. And generally, most people who witnessed the accident, you know, they pretty much say the same thing as Eddie F. You know, they say the same thing as Eddie F. these days, you know, about him falling off that exit ramp. You know, it's like the narrative of him falling off stage has been, you know, I guess I'm not going to say debunked. It's been changed. But, honestly, you know, and the same people, they never say who did it. And I hate to keep saying that over and over again. It boggles my mind because, you know, with many, like, tragic deaths, especially accidents like that occur that causes the death of people, performers, like, such as Trouble T-Roy, usually how the person died is said right away, and who did it, if they were killed by someone, who did it is usually told in the media, is usually revealed. So this is what is strange to me. I'm like, this is odd, you know. Very strange. But, honestly, it's weird, man. It's just weird. And the way the conversation keeps getting deflected to Tupac is even stranger. It's like everybody else from the tour disappeared except, like, they went invisible except Tupac. Like, he fell out the ramp. Yeah, but you know, Tupac he was tore up, you know. And that's also been a recent, as I said, that's also been a recent revelation that Tupac was really hurt by the accident and the death of Trouble T-Roy. Now, in recent years, since Tupac has become a legend of hip-hop and popular culture, you know, more and more people just been redirecting that whole horrible event to Tupac's reaction. It really almost overshadows, you know, Trouble T-Roy, his story, you know. It really almost overshadows Trouble T-Roy's story when you start talking about Tupac, because people start focusing on Tupac then, you know. And, but especially since Tupac is dead, you know, he himself continues to be exploited for fame and clout, which might be a reason he keeps getting mentioned in interviews that are supposed to be focused on Trouble T-Roy. Now, I'm not saying everybody who mentions Tupac is, you know, chasing fame and clout, but I think some are. Some people are. I mean, and it's odd because, as I said earlier, Tupac gets appreciation now, but he gets appreciation that he absolutely did not receive before he died. Tupac was looked at, especially by mainstream culture, as a negative influence for promoting thug life and gangster rap. That's how he was looked at when he was alive, especially after he had gotten shot as a result of this thug life, and yet still continued to promote thug life. Even sitting up there making that song, Wonder If Heaven Got a Ghetto. Why would you want to be in the ghetto in heaven? Are you insane? Lesane Parish Crooks, because that's Tupac's real name. Nah. It's the situation is weird to me. It's so weird I decided to write an article about it and do this video about it. Now, it is said, again, let's go into this. It is said that Tupac was inconsolable because he and Trouble T-Roy had developed a close relationship, a close friendship during the tour. According to Medium.com's article, looking back on Trouble T-Roy Dixon, 25 years after Pete Rock and CL's smooth, timeless tribute, and this article quoted a 1999 Vine magazine interview with Digital Underground's tour manager, Sleuth Pro, who can be seen as well in comic form, in comic illustration form on the cover. This is an EP release, because I had that album, and I remember looking at each person because they were drawn and named. And I remember he had one of the biggest heads on the cover. But Sleuth Pro discussed that Tupac was extremely distraught following the events of Trouble T's death. He stated, Tupac came in my room crying, bawling. They grown really close, always joking around. Tupac really showed a sensitive side that night. I mean, he wanted an advance on some money because he wanted to go get drunk. I mean, he was hurt for the rest of the tour. And that was Sleuth Pro's account. Now, oddly, in my opinion, shortly after and this is my opinion, shortly after Tupac's murder, his alleged killer, Crip gang member, Orlando Anderson, who was also discussed in the media, he was also discussed in the media. However, he wasn't discussed nearly as much as one would think, considering he was the prime suspect in the murder of Tupac, right? Hardly. It was almost hardly a whisper about Orlando Anderson, and also hardly, very few images and interviews of Orlando Anderson. Because I know if I had seen it, I would have been saying, wait a minute, this dude looks just like Tupac, except he ain't as manicured as Tupac. He got hair. And he got hair on his head and Tupac bald, and he looks like he's taller than Tupac, But other than that, I would have been the first one to say, dang, him and Tupac almost like they could have been brothers, like fraternal twins or something. So, I would have noticed that, but at that time, seriously, they bared a strange, tremendously close resemblance to one another. And Orlando Anderson was also a fan of Tupac as well. But he was arrested on suspicion of Tupac's murder due to surveillance footage that was found of Tupac along with other members of his entourage beating Orlando Anderson over a stolen chain. Now, Orlando Anderson was still a prime suspect at the time of his own murder in an unrelated gang attack, However, at that time, this is the thing, at that time, most people speculated that it was Notorious Big and Diddy that killed Tupac because they made the song Who Shot You after Tupac was shot in 1994, And Who Shot You was written and recorded in 1994, several months before Tupac was shot and robbed at Quad City Recording Studios in New York, according to Hot New Hip Hop. Now, and it was released on February 21st, 1995, shortly after Tupac began his prison sentence. Now, at that time, not many people, at that time of Tupac's murder, not many people, like you would think, were even focused on Orlando Anderson or even knew who he was. And even to this day, people kept asking to Keefe DK for running his mouth, and I think he was just talking just to get them interviews and get paid, thinking he had that proper deal that gave him immunity, and it didn't. And they incriminated himself, talking about he was really the one. I'm like, you crazy. You should have just said you should have just said you was in a car instead. Kept saying you was in the car with Orlando instead of talking about you was really the one that did it. That was crazy. Anyhow, the whole thing is just weird. Now, when I've been on YouTube, and I happened to see, when I saw videos of Orlando Anderson, I was like, ain't no way under the sun. And I'm saying this as a person, okay, who went to the East Side High of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Capital Senior High School. Capital was pretty much like East Side High from that movie Lean on Me. That's how Capital was, and most of the people that went to school with me were Tupac fans. And when Tupac died, when Tupac died, that's all they was talking about. That's all they kept talking about. So I ain't hear nobody talk about no Orlando Anderson. I didn't see nothing about Orlando Anderson in the news, neither hear it on the radio, on the hip hop stations, especially since we had just gotten like dedicated hip hop stations during that time. Instead of it being where you got this R&B station that had all this black music station that plays R&B at a particular time, hip hop at a time, and other blues and other different genres that are predominantly performed by by black people, with the exception of the ones who perform rock music, unless it's somebody like Terrence Trent D'Arby. But you wasn't gonna hear Fishbone on them kind of stations. But so they didn't even play Seal music. You would hear nothing about no Kiss by Rose. You was gonna hear him on a pop station, 102.5 WFMF. That's where you was gonna hear Seal. And I don't know, you would have heard somebody like Fishbone and Living Color, like you would have heard them on KLSU, 98. I forgot, what's it, 98.6 or something like that, 98.7 something. The Tiger, they played the rock music till the Tiger switched. Well, no, the Tiger was oldest and they switched formats to rock music. But they played some classic rock, like from the door. Anyway, because I'm rambling, that's what I mean by earlier. But, you were, nobody was talking about no Orlando Anderson. I'm like, did they make this dude up or something? No disrespect to Orlando Anderson family or he himself. I'm just saying, what? Where he come from? Because most people would, even to this day, say it was Notorious Big and Diddy that was behind the death of Tupac, you know. But anyway, because I'm talking about Trouble T-Roy, and I don't want to be, you know, focusing on Tupac because he gets a bunch of attention anyway. But here's the other thing that I found concerning. Some rappers went from being just regular rappers to hip-hop icons and music moguls. And I mean, I don't mean concerning in a bad way. It got my attention was piqued, you know. My interest was piqued, you know. For example, Heavy D. Heavy D became the first rapper to run a major record label, Uptown Records. Heavy D jump-started Sean Combs' career in the music industry. I mean, he gave him an internship at Uptown, and that set Diddy on the path to become the music mogul that we know him to be today. I mean, and hey, this was a funny coincidence also. Sean Combs was also a background dancer, you know. I mean, and I'm not gonna lie, for years, I didn't even think he was a big deal because I always, you know, I was thinking of him in the context of him being a member of Smalls, the backup dancers, you know, the background dancers. So I never realized, you know, okay, he's like this manager, this music exec type dude, you know. I didn't realize that until later. I'm like, oh, he got on the come up, okay. You know, and so, and he really started getting a lot of attention in that context in particular. He super started getting a lot of acknowledgments after Notorious Big was murdered. But I'm going to stop talking about that before I go off on talking about that for a long time. But, you know, as I said, you know, as I just referenced, Sean Combs was also a background dancer. And he danced for rapper Father MC. It seems like working with Father MC, and I'm not going to lie, I wasn't no Father MC fan at all. I can't think of a song by him that I like. No disrespect to you, Father MC. I was just saying, I don't know. But I tell you, Jodeci was singing their behinds off, I tell you that. Because Mary J. Blige and Jodeci were his background singers. Now, to be known, after Trouble T-Roy's death, Heavy D and the Boyz released their next album in honor of Trouble T-Roy, Peaceful Journey. I had Peaceful Journey on cassette. I mean, one of my favorite songs on the album, which is really why I bought the album, because it wasn't for Now That We Found Love, because that song got played so much until it wasn't funny. Almost like if I never hear that song ever again, it'll be too soft. But one of my favorite songs on the album was Is It Good to You, right? And the song, which I didn't know at the time, has a Bible scripture that quotes Jesus in Matthew 22:14, which says, "For many are called, but few are chosen." And Jesus was talking about the importance of knowing God and being prepared for His return. Matthew 22:1-14 says, "And Jesus answered and spake unto them again by parables, and said, The kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king which made a marriage for his son, and sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. Again he sent forth other servants, saying, Tell them which are bidden, Behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come unto the marriage. But they made light of it, and went their ways, one to his farm, and another to his merchandise. And the remnant took his servants, and treated them spitefully, and slew them. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth, and he sent forth his armies, and destroyed those murderers, and burned up their city. Then said he to his servants, The wedding is ready, but they which were bidden were not worthy. Go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as ye shall find, bid to the marriage. So those servants went out into the highways, and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. Excuse me. But when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there was a man which had not on a wedding garment. He said unto him, Friend, how camest thou in hither, not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then said the king to the servants, Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. Now, why would Heavy D quote that Bible scripture in the context of sex? The scripture is not relevant to his song in any way. At the time that I liked the song, I didn't know that it was a quote from Jesus. And I'll be honest, I thought it was like a slogan from the military. I really like from the army, especially back then, because when you watch Soul Train in particular back then, the army kept, not just Soul Train, other, I guess because of the youth audience that those shows had, like American Bandstand, and I think Friday Night Videos as well. I didn't have cable, y'all. And Soul Train, they played the Army commercial talking about you're reaching deep inside you, go, right, for things you never know. Anyway, I used to like that commercial. And the man on there, the social man was on there, he was handsome. Anyway, but I thought it was like an army slogan. I really did. I had no idea. But, okay. Next, I also noticed that Eddie F became a major music producer. And to be honest, I didn't know just how big Eddie F became. I mean, I remember hearing people, shouting him out on different songs, different groups, and music performers shouting him out on various songs. But I was more focused on the other, the song itself than shout outs to Eddie F, right? Not until, some people just, Eddie F, like in later years, like in interviews with like people like Vlad, that I say, Eddie F must have been a huge deal. And I'm going to say the reason for that is that I didn't like the change of the music scene once rap and hip-hop became seriously integrated, particularly into the black music genre, because it got integrated in. It's like the New Jack genre became like a Trojan horse for the serious major integration and acceptance of rap, and to establish it as its own, permanently establish it as its own drama instead of just this, genre rather. Instead of just this like fly by night type of thing, but like a fad or something, And because rap was kind of faddish at first. It was a bit on the faddish side, not until it looked like gangster rap came into the picture. It looked like not until really like hardcore rap was introduced did rap get a lot of notoriety. I ain't gonna even say publicity, I'm gonna say notoriety. And all these people would just fight the power and type thing. They fought to keep, like, clowns like Luke Skywalker, Luther Campbell, fighting to be able, going to Washington to fight to be able to lyrically degrade and tear apart black women. Because I'm not going to even just say women, because black women, because that's who's on the cover of They Nasty As They Wanna Be album. And music was, it wasn't where music was this big melting pot. The genre was this giant melting pot at that time. So he took his tail to Washington to fight for the right to degrade black women. So as he is running for office, I think he's running for Senate in Florida, y'all better not vote for him. You better not vote for him. If you truly believe that Black Lives Matter and truly believe in the fortification and the unification of the black family, don't you vote for no Luke Skywalker at all. Just like you don't need to be running to no abortion clinic to be killing black children, because that was the goal. The goal of Planned Parenthood and its founder, Margaret Sanger. The population control and depopulation of black people, particularly in America, and when it came to like international Planned Parenthood, groups like Marie Stopes, who that target the African diaspora, So when you see clowns like Barack Obama and Kamala Harris and Raphael Warnock and Al Sharpton taking money from Planned Parenthood, talking about some kind of, a woman got a right. No, the woman got a right to keep her funky legs closed. Is what she got the right to do, because abortion should not be used as no method of no freaking birth control, because even Margaret Sanger herself said she ain't believe in actual abortion itself. At one point is what she said. Initially, when she was promoting birth control, she meant birth control of the population of black people. And people who she found to be dysgenic, like people with special needs. That is what Margaret Sanger meant. But even she said what was it, the Birth Control League of America, they were saying that once that birth control is to prevent conception, and once a woman is pregnant, abortion kills the baby, and that's murder. That is murder. So when you see these uppity black elitists going into poor, underserved, disadvantaged, black, I would say undereducated, black communities promoting abortion like it's a good thing. Y'all need to be out there protesting them like it's out there in a Black Lives Matter protesting people out there protesting the death of George Floyd now. Because y'all talking about, well, we a minority, you a minority because you're contributing to the death of your own freaking community is what you're doing. And I'm not speaking in regard to women who've been raped at all, though I personally think and have seen people who have been born, who have been conceived due to rape, and their mothers have kept them, and they've gone on to do tremendously wonderful things in life. I've seen people whose mothers giving birth to them and even try to throw them away, such as Tommy Davidson, yet they've gone on to do tremendously wonderful and beautiful things in life. I've seen people who mother attempted to abort them, and those people have God has blessed those people with the resilience to survive those abortions, such as Jonna Jessen. So, and Roy Baumberger is also, he's a person who was conceived due to rape. So, I don't support abortion in those instances either, right? But I don't condemn women who have abortion because they don't know that life begins. Science has proven this. It is a scientific fact that life begins at the moment of conception. Yet, you have doctors who are on the pay, who are on the take from organizations such as Planned Parenthood that won't tell you that. Planned Parenthood itself won't tell you that. Matter of fact, Planned Parenthood covers up the death of women and women who have died because of complications from abortions and abortion pills, as well as they will sit up there and abort a baby and see that the baby is born alive and won't even give the baby any life-saving medical attention. Instead, they get there and just let the baby die. The baby is laying there crying itself not to sleep but to death. So, you all better not vote for no Luther Campbell. You better not vote for Luther Campbell. Ever. You ain't got no business sitting up there listening to this old trashy, evil, demonic music. And anyway, back to Trouble T-Roy before I get on this Luther Campbell thing, because it's about to be on. It ain't no about to be. It's already on for us. Me trying to just tear his campaign off hard, because he the guy old, ain't nobody trying to shake nothing for him, like talking about this, they can get some money for him, and so now he trying to do this career change in the politics, and you black people better not let it happen, especially if you sitting up there talking about you pro-black and for the black, you bet, if I reach my hand through my device and slap the people anyway, because God said, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, and rulers of darkness of this world, is what he said. So I won't do it. God will do it. God will handle that. God said for us not to avenge ourselves. And so, I'm going to just keep discussing Trouble T-Roy right now. And in this video, dedicated to a good man, such as the good man that Trouble T-Roy, and I'm not speaking to him in past context, I'm going to say, such as the good man that Trouble T-Roy is. Okay. Now, this is, these are things that I have noticed. These are things that I have noticed. But, Public Enemy, along with Public Enemy, becoming pro-black philosophers, pro-black philosopher activists, especially the members, Chuck D and Professor Griff. And even Flavor Flav had got his, career and got a restart and jump start with his own, Love Island type show where the women try to fight over him and stuff and try to marry him and things. He looks just like one of my aunts. He really do, except he got gold teeth and she didn't. But anyway, though my mama said she was like Chuck Berry anyway. Now, Chuck D is viewed as a political leader. He claims to be pro-black. However, again, and he one of the ones who supported the pro-choice, Planned Parenthood endorsed Kamala Harris, in spite of the fact that abortion is the leading cause of death in the black community. And as said earlier, Planned Parenthood was created to target black America for depopulation and population control. Now, Chuck D has also collaborated with many artists across genres, including Meatloaf. Back when I was younger, like when I was in high school, I used to like Meatloaf's song, I Would Do Anything for Love. But he collaborated with Meatloaf on the song Mad, Mad World and The Good God Is a Woman. Now, see, that should tell you something right there. And it's time somebody running around talking about God or woman. Even though God has referred to himself so many times as a man till it ain't funny. And, all throughout the Bible, there's no mistaking God is a man. God is a man. Now, some old demon like Semiramis, because, honestly, there was Nephilim back then, and some of these people you read about, like Nimrod and Semiramis and others, messing with genetic modifications and all this kind of stuff. You never know. Some of them may not even been fully human. They might have been like the Incredible Hulk or the X-Men or something. You never know. And that is not far-fetched because as soon as you see people with having baboon hearts and other animal genetic material transplantations given to them, put into them, it's not a far-fetched concept, That's my personal opinion. But, and let's look at progressive, and most of all, calling God a woman, that is extreme blasphemy. And people blaspheme the Holy Spirit in that way, frequently trying to say that he's this demon, Sophia, who is a spirit of wisdom, and say, no, Sophia a demon. I'm like, okay, why are Christians listening to Ariana Grande talking about God as a woman? And you see Ariana Grande now, why are they even listening to her? It looks like every time you're looking for perfume or something, her perfume kit, I promise you I would never buy nothing Ariana Grande, period. Especially, no. I'm like, no. Anyway, you look at Professor Griff. Though having been kicked out of the group Public Enemy for anti-Semitic remarks, Professor Griff has built a major career as a black nationalist activist. Now, another group is from that tour. Excuse me, it's Kid and Play. Now, Kid and Play had begun, Kid and Play Mania had began 4 months before the death of Trouble T-Roy. You know what I mean? And a lot of that, you know, I ain't gonna lie. They were talking about they want Kid and Play so much, I got tired of hearing about Kid and Play back then. I really did. I got like, yeah, we get it. And it's like it's 3 people together. They all kind of seem like they were similar. And it's like it was like a competition to who would get chosen to be the main one. And that is like Kid, Fresh Prince, and Humpty. You know, the 3 of them seemed similar to me. Yeah, it's like, okay, who? Like, they were in a battle to be the clown prince of rap, right? And, though Humpty came in close, Fresh Prince won. And them, I mean, to me, especially back then, they seemed almost pretty much like if Humpty were a real person, it would have been Fresh Prince. And even Fresh Prince was pretty much like the alter ego of Will Smith. It's weird, but at that time, Kid and Play, like 2 months after Kid and Play, it's like 2 months after the death of Trouble T-Roy, Kid and Play got their own NBC cartoon. And I used to watch it. I mean, it'd be watching, having to look at sports to me back then, unless it was WWE, like Superstars of Wrestling, WWF Superstars of Wrestling, because I was all about that back then, the Superstars of Wrestling. And, so that was or if a movie happened to come on, or they were showing reruns of TV shows like What's Happening or something, But Webster, because they used to show Webster a lot on Saturday. That was like the thing after the cartoons, Webster. Particularly on ABC. But where I look at ABC affiliate here, WBRZ, here in Baton Rouge. But also, though, I will say, to be fair, around that time, MC Hammer and New Kids on the Block had gotten their own cartoons as well, and I used to somewhat like New Kids on the Block cartoon. I used to like New Kids on the Block cartoon because I had a crush on Joe McIntyre back then. Anyway, though I would say I wasn't that big of a fan of none of them cartoons. And don't y'all be trying to get me back by having me cough a little bit. Anyway, just kidding. Now, personally, a G-rated Digital Underground cartoon with them fighting crime, now that could have been fun right there, particularly, with Humpty Hump. Now, if he wasn't like this vulgar, if he wasn't vulgar like he was on their albums, that could have been fun. Much more fun than the others. Now, Digital Underground became a legend in their own right, with and without Tupac, Digital Underground reached legendary status because of the gimmicks of its founder and leaders, leader, rapper Shock G's alter ego, Humpty Hump, who, as explained on the cover of the EP, whose name is really Humpty G. Humphreys, even though he's the alter ego of Shock G. And I'm going to write, I'm writing an article about it right now. Humpty Dance. Humpty became a classic hit party song that still, played like it's just debuted, It's still played like it's debuted recently, when it at parties and stuff. Now, I used to think Do What You Like was the better song, because Humpty Dance, that seemed weird. It just sounded weird to me. And Humpty Hump himself was just strange to me, though it was funny to learn later that Shock G based the voice of Humpty Hump off his uncle. And I'm like, his uncle probably wanted to whip him from here to China for even doing that instead of just talking like him. Anyway, Tupac, as stated earlier, made his rap debut with the group Digital Underground on a hit song from, this is the EP release. I'm not going to lie, I mentioned this is the EP release because I really like it better than the album from which it is the extended play, Sex Packets. I mean, to me, the versions of the songs that are on Sex Packets don't sound as good as the ones from Sex Packets that are on, this is the EP release, like Nothing Is Funky and Sex Packets itself, But, what else? Now, same song. Excuse me. I have a slight sinus thing going, allergies and stuff. Same song was featured on the soundtrack to the horror comedy movie Nothing But Trouble, and appeared in the movie, and Digital Underground appeared in the movie performing the song. That's interesting. The movie also featured, now this is, okay, I wrote an article about Ghostbusters, right? And yes, Dan Aykroyd was in Ghostbusters, and he was the lead actor in Nothing But Trouble. And the movie featured a killer roller coaster, and in the cartoon on the episode Boogeyman Returns, right, there was a killer roller coaster featured, right? And in Nothing But Trouble, now, the Boogeyman in the episode of Boogeyman Coming, and also in the episode Boogeyman Returns, he looks like the cross between Michael Jackson and Prince and the Joker, right? And a horse, kind of like he's like a two-legged centaur, or like a goat, more like a Pan, like a cyberpunk version of Pan is what he looked like. Also, and in Nothing But Trouble, at the entrance of that roller coaster ride, right, of the killer roller coaster, because there's a killer roller coaster in Boogeyman Returns, or the cartoon Ghostbuster, and the killer roller coaster that is in Nothing But Trouble has a figure at the entrance that looks like a cross between the Boogeyman and Humpty Hump. Now, and I'm just, just the observation that I'm telling you all. And again, Tupac Tupac went on to become a rap icon whose life, death, and legacy is still studied in colleges and universities, and he has become, since his death, he has become part of mainstream culture. Now, to conclude, I would say, I'm glad that Heavy D, G, Wiz, Eddie F, and Tupac was Trouble T-Roy's real friends. I really am. Who wouldn't have ever, like people talk about folks getting sacrificed by other people for fame and success in the entertainment industry, especially in the music industry, right? I'm glad that Heavy D, G Wiz, Eddie F, and Tupac were his real friends who wouldn't sacrifice him, who wouldn't sacrifice Trouble T-Roy for more fame and success. And I'm also glad that CL Smooth and Trouble T-Roy made amends and became the best of friends after a fight that occurred over a girl that put Trouble T-Roy's brother in a coma. Now, I'm glad, because otherwise that would have been tremendously morbid and inhuman to make a song where you pretend to mourn the death of someone whom you said was your friend, but you really still consider them an enemy. You know, they reminisce over you is a strong declaration of the feelings that they had towards Trouble T-Roy, and that became a hip-hop classic, no doubt, right? So I'm extremely happy for that, because folks like Diddy, look like everybody who come up dead or they got beat up, Diddy get that were in association with him, he gets the blame for that. You know, everybody like Kim Porter, his children, some of his children's mother, you know. She, you know, people say he planned her departure. And other folks too, you know, you include Notorious Big's departure, right? And some insinuate that one of his bodyguards, Wolf, his bodyguard and friend, longtime friend, Wolf, was made, you know, he made his departure courtesy of Diddy. Some people say that. Now, personally, I don't know. I wasn't there, and I'm not gonna gossip about that, right? At all. So it's good, you know. So it's good that Trouble T-Roy don't have that kind of foolishness going on around his, you know, his legacy, his life and legacy. I mean, Tupac seems to have really been a wonderful friend to Trouble T-Roy. I mean, Sleuth, Eddie F, and Christopher Kidd from Kid and Play, you know, Christopher Kidd Reeves, all give almost the same exact account of how upset Tupac was about Trouble T-Roy's death, you know. And we pretty much know that Tupac wasn't the person that accidentally killed Trouble T-Roy, because that would have been a scandal for which the news media, especially tabloids at that time, especially tabloids at the time, like during Tupac's fame when he was alive, and particularly after he died, when people were everywhere all of a sudden were proclaiming to have been a close friend of Tupac's, right? And folks were exploiting him, were exploiting his death for their own fame and clout, you know, to gain fame and clout, right? You know, the tabloids would have paid exorbitant amounts of money for proof to release to the public of Tupac having accidentally killed Trouble T-Roy if that had actually happened, and we know it didn't, you know. I mean, it would have become a part of Tupac's life story and legacy. I mean, it would be weird though if Tupac accidentally killed Trouble T-Roy. I truly doubt it though, because Tupac was an upstanding person who fought social justice. As I said earlier, he fought for social justice and the civil rights of black people and everyone. And he would have had the integrity to tell people what happened and caution young people of the devastating consequences of making careless, reckless decisions. This is Stage Left Planet. I'm your host, Warita Winbush. And focus on God.